In this presentation, we will record a transaction related to budgetary accounts in Excel. Information on the left side, we're going to put that information into the blue areas on the right side. We'll put the journal entry here. We'll post that journal entry then to the trial balance. Trial balance is going to be designed to give us an idea of the types of accounts that we will be posting to. We'll have the beginning trial balance, the ending trial balance. We're going to post to this middle column so that we can see the change from the beginning to the end. We're not going to have a lot of detail in the trial balance. We just want to have a chart of accounts and then see the change in the types of accounts that we are posting. That'll give us an idea of the chart of accounts or the types of accounts that we are using, where they're going to line up. And that's going to be the most difficult thing oftentimes when we go from private accounting to governmental type of accounting, because the names will change. We're going to have to deal with these budgetary accounts. How are we going to deal with those? Because we're actually going to be posting to budgetary accounts on, say, a GL or a trial balance. We need to have an idea of what that will look like. And so it's really useful to have a trial balance, even if it's just a trial balance. It's just going to be a small trial balance to give us an idea of the chart of accounts. So the green accounts will be the assets. We'll have the liabilities in blue. The light blue is going to be the net assets, what would be equity accounts for a for-profit organization, fund balance type of accounts here, and then the blue accounts, which are going to be what would be the income statement accounts for a for-profit. Here they're going to be the income statement accounts as well as budgetary type of accounts for the governmental. Now, these are the areas that we're going to be reporting to or recording to when we do the budgetary accounts as we're doing here. And this is a bit unusual. This will be a bit odd. So we want to be able to post these. It'll be a bit odd as compared to for-profit organizations where we don't post the budgetary type of accounts. So we want to post these and see what it will look like, how everything's going to line up as we go through transactions, as we actually record transactions in the future. Then we'll actually go over and we will post to subsidiary ledgers as well. So we have our estimated revenues and our appropriations on the left-hand side. We've got the estimated revenues from the governmental organization that's going to be coming from taxes. We have intergovernmental revenues, license and permits, fines and forfeits, miscellaneous, and other revenues. So these are going to be the sources of funds, of revenues in quotes, that we're going to have for the governmental organization. Then we have the appropriations. These are going to be the expenditures from the general fund that we have, and we're going to group them by our appropriations by. We're going to have the general government appropriations, public safety, public works, health and welfare, and miscellaneous. So we're going to record this. We're going to record our budgetary accounts then. We're going to go up top. I'm going to get this information from the trial balance. So we're going to first record the estimated revenues. Now, when we think about revenues, the way you want to think about the budgetary accounts is basically the income statement is going to have our normal type of accounts we would think for-profit accounting, where we would have revenue and expenses or expenditures, which are going to be similar. And then we're going to have these budgetary accounts. Whenever we have budgetary accounts, we're going to think of them as the opposite of whatever account they're related to. In other words, the budgeted revenue is going to be the opposite of the revenue account. So the revenue account has a credit balance. Therefore, the budgetary account related to it, the estimated revenue account, is going to have a debit normal balance. So they're going to be like the mirror opposites of the actual accounts. Revenue has a credit balance. The budget then has a debit normal balance. And so that's how we'll record this. I'm going to pull this from our chart of accounts by just saying equals, and I want to pick up this estimated revenue accounts. And then that's going to be a debit because we're going to actually record this to the GL or to our little worksheet, which represents basically the GL here, as we actually record the budgetary accounts. Then we're going to pick up the appropriations. We're going to group them all into just appropriations. These are basically our estimated expenses or expenditures or the outflows. And we're going to group them by basically funds or the use that we're going to have here. So I'm going to say this is going to be negative of our appropriations down here. This is 16,060,000. Now again, we can think of the appropriations as basically the opposite of the related account related to it, which for a for-profit would be expenses. Here we're going to call them expenditures. Expenses or expenditures have debit balances. Therefore, the budgetary account related to it will have a credit balance. So then we're going to have the difference between the two. So the difference, this minus this, is going to be 59,000. I'm going to do that with what I call the plug formula down here. I'm going to say negative SUM And I'm going to sum up these 4 cells, and that'll give us the plug what we need for the credits to be equal to the debits, or the sum of both of them to be equal to 0, credits being negative in this, the way I've set up the worksheet. That difference then is going to go to the kind of equity type of account, or we would think of it as an equity type of budgetary equity account for a for-profit, and that's going to be up top. So it's going to be this item here in the equity type of accounts, and that's going to be our transaction. Then we'll actually post this. We're going to be posting this to the worksheet. You would think about this being posted to a general ledger account, and then to the basically the the worksheet or the trial balance. We're going to do that in a little summary format so we can see it actually being posted. We can see the lineup of the accounts here. So we're going to say, all right, first we're going to have the estimated revenues up top equal to, I'm just going to pick up this number, and that's going to increase from 0 up by the 16,119,000 to a debit here, because again, it's estimated revenue, therefore it's the opposite of a normal revenue, which would be a credit, and this is going to be a debit because it's the budgetary revenue account. And then we're going to go down to the appropriations. We're going to post appropriations, so that's going to be here. This is equal to, and I'm just going to post to the credit. So credit represented by the brackets here. So notice in this column, we're grouping debits and credits in one column so that we have the debits being positive, the credits being negative, and they'll then sum up, and it'll be a little easier to see rather than having 6 columns of debits and credits. And then we're going to have the budgetary balance, which is going to be up top, and this is going to be equal to the 59,000. So there we have it. We're back in balance here, and we basically posted the budget to the general ledger, or to, in essence, our worksheet here. This budgetary accounts then is going to be the difference between the two. That's our budgetary, basically kind of net income or net profit account. You can call it our estimated change in net position, or the assets minus liabilities. In essence, basically kind of our estimated net income if it was a for-profit type of organization. Now we're also going to go over here to our subsidiary ledgers, and we will in essence just break out the detail in the subsidiary ledger, and the details in essence going to be just what we had here in our information. So we group this together with one journal entry. Now we're going to break out the detail in the subsidiary ledger. We're going to scroll over here. We're going to have the revenue ledger. So this is going to give us the detail similar to the detail we would think of if you were thinking about like a accounts receivable type of an account, which has money that's owed to us by customers in one group number of all the money that's owed. And then we want to break that information out into more detail, who owes us money. We're going to do a similar type of breakout here with the budgetary accounts, breaking out the more detailed information from these budgetary line items. So we're going to say, all right, the revenue is going to be equal to, and I'm just going to pick up the same data we have over here, the taxes, and then I'm going to copy this down. I'm just going to autofill this down all the way down. And that's going to give our taxes to the miscellaneous revenue. I've added one more column so we can see the total here, and I'll say total. And then we're just going to pick up the same numbers that we had in our information. This is going to be equal to, and I'm just going to pull over the same numbers, the 14.1, and I'm just going to autofill them down, and that'll pick up the rest of these accounts. So we're going to say, all right, estimated revenue, I'm going to autofill that down, and then we'll just sum that up equals the sum of these items. And there's no revenue right now, so we'll talk about posting revenue later. So the balance is simply going to be the estimate, and I'm just going to say equals that number, and then I'm going to copy that down and then sum this up. So that's going to be what we have in the subsidiary as of this time. I'll clean this up with going to the home tab, underline, underline, and double underline. I'm holding down Control to highlight these two, home tab, font, and we'll double underline. Now we'll do the same things for the appropriations, and notice this is going to, later on we'll do the subsidiary ledger for the appropriations and the expenditures. So it's all going to be this long type of subsidiary ledger to have all this information in the subsidiary ledger. Of course, right now all we have are the appropriations. So we're going to say this is equal to, and we're going to give the detail that is already given to us in essence by the information here. We're going to break it out by the types of funds, the general government, public safety, public works, and health and welfare. So I'm going to say equals. I'm going to copy that down, autofill it down, and then the total is going to be below that. And then all we have right now, we're going to be looking at all this later, the encumbrances increases and the encumbrances decreases, the encumbrance balance, the expenditures. We don't have any of that right now. We have the expenditures balance. All we have are the appropriations, basically the budgetary account. So we're going to say, all right, this is what we have at this point in time. The budgetary information equals this item. And then we'll pull that down. We're going to say pull this down. And then we'll sum it up. And then, of course, the balance at this time is simply the same thing because that's all we have at this time. So it's the same thing as of now. And we'll copy that down. And then we'll sum this up. And that'll give us our detail of the accounts that are on our trial balance. So here's the accounts on our trial balance. Estimated revenue is represented here, broken out by the detail. We've got the appropriations here that is broken out by the detail here.